Today's episode is brought to you by Echo being released.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. Another week of Overwatch League down in the online slate of games. Another very good week as well. There's always, I feel like we're doing the
fever. Yeah.
I'm so confident every week when we do our picks, and I'm like, oh, are these even going to be good? But every week, without fail, there's always one or two teams that are surprising you. And I give credit to the hero pools for that, but we had it last year, even when it was goats all the time. Like all those things are just always create for fun balance tweaks and throw our power rankings in the dirt every single week because they don't matter, but a lot of fun to watch nonetheless.
Yeah, it's variety is always going to be good in these games. If everything was just, the power rankings are up and those are 100%, well, we'd be watching something much closer to chess. And while chess has a lot of interesting strategy, chess is boring. Okay, let's be honest. Chess is boring. People, for some reason, always want to strive to chess. Like, even if they don't think that they do, they're like, oh, we want everything to be perfectly balanced so the best player always wins 100% of the time. It's like, well, yeah. Like, if you want something really close to that, just go play chess. Like, or go watch chess. There's a reason you're not. Or maybe some of you are, because, like, watching Magnus Carlsen, like, analyze games is fascinating to me because he has a computer brain. But outside of that, I was not expecting to go on a rant about competitive chess.
I'm just amazed you're able to Google up the name of a professional chess player that fast.
I know. You don't know Magnus Carlsen?
No, I don't. I don't care about chess. You were right. You've never been more right on this show ever.
It's true. No one cares about chess except for Bobby Fischer and Magnus Carlsen. I can't name any more chess players than that. Those are the two that I know. Oh, sorry, Watson, IBM Watson. That's the third one that I know.
I think I've heard that name before.
Oh wait, no, IBM Watson is the Jeopardy bot. IBM, actually, I don't know if it's IBM or not. Deep Blue is the chess machine. Those are the three chess players I know: a literal robot, a robot brain, and a crazy a crazy guy from the 60s or 70s. I don't actually remember what time period Bobby Fischer. Maybe it was the 80s. I don't remember.
All I know is I've beaten a lot of computers playing chess. I think I could take Watson, Blue Bell, or whatever.
Say, wow, yeah, because Watson can't play chess. What is I forfeit?
I definitely got Watson then.
All right, now that we've got our prerequisite 5 minutes on chess out of the way, let's move on and talk about some housekeeping here. First and foremost, right at the top, we've got a brand spanking new patron, Death, at the $10 level. Ace Trainer Leon, I'm going off of your Gmail account that you registered with. Thank you so much for the patronage. If you haven't already, hop into the Discord, either tag myself or Death or shoot us a DM and we'll get you that fancy title if you haven't already linked your Discord to Patreon, and you'll get that fancy title. And just again, thank you to everyone who has remained a patron. I know it's been a long time, and the season is in flux and all this stuff, but we're keeping it plugging away, and we are very happy to keep doing that. And everything that you guys do provide helps us out a ton. You know, once the world gets back to some semblance of normalcy, we'll be going to all of the events that we can. Hopefully there's going to be, I mean, everything is up in flux, but hopefully there's going to be a grand finals or a BlizzCon or, some home stands that we can go to. I know once the world gets back to normal, we're all going to be pining to get to these events eventually. So all of that does help, even if it's not happening right now. So again, thank you so much, Ace Trainer Leon. Patreon.com/High Noon Podcast if you want to check that out. Blackwatch Report, of course. They have if you can tell from their last title that they have not become a Valorant podcast yet, but I know just from anecdotal evidence that they're both playing it quite a bit because they are in a lot of our games. But they are, of course, covering the Tier 2 scene and plugging away at that. So make sure you're checking out the Black Watch report there. Okay, Death. Let's move on and talk about what we did this last week. Anything fun and exciting for you?
Just a little more of the quarantine life. I've been playing some Valorant, some Hearthstone PGs, and fell off the Diablo train a little bit again. I really want D4 more than I want to keep playing D3. But
well,
nonetheless,
and me and you will be the only two. We're the only two people who are actually excited for Diablo Immortal.
I think you might be the only person left that still thinks that's happening. But
I mean, I don't care. I don't care. I just, if it happens, I'll be happy, and if it doesn't, then whatever. But we were the only two people who were excited.
I love telling that story about when people make that joke. Be like, yeah, I was in the stands that day, and I gotta tell you, I was looking forward to it.
I was pumped.
I hope we get it.
We were both like, oh crap, are they gonna put Diablo on mobile? That's amazing. And everyone else is just like, so, and just like hiding their phones behind their. We want Diablo 4, and nothing else will satisfy. Okay, we're bringing up all the oldies here. We're talking about chess. We're talking about year plus old hot topics. Yeah, that's what we've come. That's what quarantine has brought out of us. We're yearning back to the olden times when you could sit across from another human being and play a game, and you could be in a convention center with thousands of other people. But yeah, for me, been on the Valorant grind as well. Casted another Legends of Runeterra tournament this weekend. Been doing that pretty consistently, actually. It's been fun. LOR is definitely hit a nice spot for me, being a Magic the Gathering-esque game, and they're really, in my opinion, taking a really interesting line on how they're balancing it and all that. So, been really enjoying that. TFT as well, and actually been playing a little bit of Magic the Gathering traditional as well, as the new set came out, and there's Godzilla cards.
Speaking of TFT a little bit, we do have actually an event coming up soon.
Yes.
Where both Blevins and I will be casting the TFT event. Also, some other familiar faces from the Overwatch casting scene will be there as well.
Yeah.
Right now, I believe it's the two of us, and then Boopasaurus and Kenobi are the casting talent for that event. Keep an eye on our Twitters, things like that. We'll probably throw up like a non-@everyone announcement in the High Noon Discord when we
in the off-topic
chat
as
well.
an
off-topic or something. So I know a couple people have asked to let us know if we're ever casting as a duo or anything like that. But that looks like it'll be happening. We'll be mixed in with the other guys as well, but I'm sure at least one match will be the two of us together.
For sure. I don't know. I have no idea whether that is public or not, but I know Boop spoiled it on a different Discord, so I'll just leave it at that. But keep an eye out. It is slated to be coming up soon, so we'll let you guys know about that. But with that,
we didn't say who's putting it on, so there's nobody to be mad at. It doesn't happen. Just me, I guess. So that's good.
I'm pretty sure it's still happening, but
yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
he has all the details, but I haven't seen an announcement yet.
Yeah. All right. With that, let's move on and talk about news. NYXL and Seoul are both now back in Korea and are on the schedule again. So finally, get to see some NYXL matches. Are they up to snuff? Have they taken a couple of losses early and are not quite there? Are they still a top half team? Are they still a top contender? Just haven't seen enough matches, I don't think. And then the same for Seoul. Seoul, I mean, coming into the season, was on a lot of people at the top end of a lot of people's power rankings. The few matches we have seen have sort of lived up to that, but there has not really been any real placement matches. It's the winning the games that they absolutely should have won, and in dominating fashion. But Not quite anything too crazy for them yet, but still living up to it. So I'm
And we've seen a
excited.
lot of these breaks lead to some lackluster performances for
Yep.
multiple teams.
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver last weekend, San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco on their return.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as practiced in the hero pools as some of the teams that have been going on the whole time here.
Right.
So I guess that's our upset alert here for New York games, despite the undoubted 5-0s that are coming in the predictions.
Right.
Uh,
100%.
it's something to keep an eye out and keep in mind as you watch these two teams this weekend and maybe make your pick'ems.
Yeah. It is definitely definitely something to consider if you need to make some flips, if you want to take some hot takes. It's definitely something to consider for sure. But yeah, I'm just glad to see him back on the schedule. Obviously, we're going to be seeing them playing in that sort of de facto Chinese division, or I guess Asia division now, because that's just the world we live in right now with the matching up ping and whatnot. So perhaps not the series of placement matches that we were expecting, but they're the times we live in right now. So we will continue on as is needed. So let's move on here and get in to a little bit of
It's tournament talk.
all right. Had a nice packed, not even just weekend. Again, we started out on Thursday this week. So I guess tail end of the week into the weekend of matches. Starting off, we had Atlanta Reign win 3-0 versus the Washington Justice. LA Gladiators winning the Battle of LA versus the Valiant 3-2. Florida Mayhem winning 3-0 versus the Paris Eternal. We'll be talking a lot about the Mayhem this episode. Toronto Defiant keeping it up, winning 3-1 versus the Boston Uprising. San Fran winning a nail biter 3-2 versus the Dallas Fuel. Chengdu winning 3-0 versus Guangzhou Charge. Shanghai Dragons winning 3-0 versus Hangzhou Spark. Guangzhou turning it around and winning 3-1 versus the Hangzhou Spark. And Shanghai winning 3-0 versus Chengdu. I want to say that this is like the first week where there hasn't been some sort of crazy parody puzzle parody circle that's been put together with the Chinese matches. It's like, well, this team A beat Team B, but Team B beat Team C and Team C beat Team A. So what do we have? Nothing. This one, Hangzhou sort of, fell on the sword for us here and solidified themselves as the worst team of the week for sure. And the worst unmuted person in this podcast is certainly
definitely me. I don't know. My Discord was all tabbed. I don't even know when I hit the button, but nonetheless, it was something that was basically inevitable to happen as more teams got added in, right? Everything was just kind of really, for lack of a better term, like really inbred with only like 3 or 4 teams involved.
Right.
It was just going to be awkward and really rock, paper, scissory, I think, which was a lot of fun over a couple of weeks, but some variety in those games is going to be great as well.
Yep.
And it'll help, I think, get us closer to a more complete and more balanced playoff picture by the end of the season as well. So I'm excited to get those teams in there. Maybe Hangzhou Spark fans aren't the most excited this week, but long term, I think they're all going to be mostly fine. They're going to do a lot of trading wins back and forth, anyways. Even though things are spread out a little more with New York there now. Vancouver should be getting back to games soon. I don't know exactly what's going on there. They've got plenty of inner turmoil going on the Vancouver Titans team. Nothing official there to report. It's just kind of a mess. Seems to be some mentality issues or I don't know, behavioral problems within the team. And listen, it's one of these everybody's stuck at home, everybody's
Right.
struggling with motivation, everybody's struggling with energy levels and things like that. And maybe just Vancouver was the first one with all their travel issues that they had going on as
Right.
well, kind of maybe caused some more problems. But we'll hope to see them back very, very soon. I don't think they're not playing because of those behavioral problems,
Right.
right? Leagues don't stop for you to get everybody getting along and being nice.
Right.
But at least for their sake, they're getting a little bit of a break now when they probably need it the most because of those issues. So, but yeah, so things spreading out and calming down a little bit in the Chinese region this week for sure. And we did get to see that a little bit with Shanghai running the table 6-0 in
Yeah.
maps, putting themselves, I think, with Seoul at kind of the top end of the power rankings for
Yeah.
that particular, what we'll call a division for now, even though they're
Right.
not a division, just for clarity's sake
It
and
basically is.
thinking of it in a logical way. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're essentially a division for this
There's
season.
literally a division between these two
Yes.
groups of teams of several thousand miles. So, yeah, I mean, the other a little bit of a spreading of the ends of that region, but the other big story here is what's the deal with Florida Mayhem? I mean, come on. 3-0 versus Paris Eternal Death. Your thoughts?
Well, this to me is a combination of multiple things. I didn't want to see it going into this week, and maybe because, but there's a lesson here that we learned
Yeah.
when Houston kicked Paris in the teeth
Right.
a few weeks back, and that's that Paris is a completely different team without Reinhardt.
Right.
When they don't have the ability to, when it's not in meta, play a Reinhardt-based composition, their tank line becomes very, very beatable. They did go with no smite over Ben Best, which is good because Ben Best is just awful at the other heroes, right? He's been very good at the Reinhardt, but statistically the numbers are there. I pointed it out. I actually called Muma the favorite in a tank battle coming off of his worst 3-week stretch I've ever seen, just based off the stats and the numbers we saw from Ben Best. So they did go with no smite. Again, his numbers, there's a very small sample size to them, but they're pretty bad too. So their main tank position is just brutally hurt by the lack of Reinhardt in the metagame. I think that's something we need to absolutely remember going forward about Paris, especially now without Eggsy. That takes away some of their just pop off and carry potential that they have to carry them through some of those problems and win against what should be considered by most people, especially going into this weekend, to be one of the worst teams in the league, which is Florida. That's the way they've played. That's the way their performances have been. And that was the same was true for Houston. So Paris is basically a team that can play up to absolutely anybody and can lose to absolutely anybody. They remind me honestly a lot of what we've seen from Houston in the past. The ability to show up and take anybody to map 5 or to beat anybody on any given day. Also, the exact opposite becomes true for them as well. So we'll see if that pans out. Nice for Paris is Eggsy should be back. You have to assume back problems don't tend to often end careers where you're predominantly sitting down in a chair. So hopefully he's able to get back and get back to playing and feeling good, well enough to compete at least. And then Sparkle comes off the bench, and I thought Nico was a pretty big weakness for Paris. Just didn't really get a lot accomplished. And that's kind of been his MO throughout his career to me. It's just a solid player, but not gonna carry you, not gonna go crazy and pop off. And that to me, Soon is capable of that, doesn't do it very often, didn't this week. Nico didn't, nobody did. Hanbin was kind of alone to me, like playing really well for Paris. So yeah, they were in a rough spot this weekend. And on the Florida side, they did a lot right, I think. I've been just constantly play fate, play fate, play fate. Like he was just a better player. I know maybe it didn't look like it when he comes in for 1 map or 2 maps or something
When he's
earlier in
not
the
warmed
season.
up and
Sure.
hasn't played at all.
It's a situation that isn't optimal, I don't think, for a tank player, and some players are going to handle that coming in for 1 map or something better than others, and maybe he didn't handle it great. I don't know. I thought he looked very, very good across all 3 maps. Obviously, they won, so it's hard to be exploited when you win fairly convincingly as they did. Same thing went for Chris. I thought he played his best Overwatch I think I've ever seen from him in this match. Made some big plays and he did it on the Lucio, something that it seemed like he was just completely unable to perform on in the past. So I thought that was big for them. So yeah, getting the roster right was kind of step one, and then people actually playing well that were
Mm-hmm.
playing poorly previously made a big difference here for Florida. So we'll see. We've got a lot to learn about what Paris is as hero pools continue to evolve. Can Florida maintain that? But yeah, Florida, and then spoiler alerts to the probably the next conversation. Dallas looked to be
Yeah.
playing, good, very serious, competitive Overwatch this weekend. Something we've not seen from them yet this year. So great to see.
Yeah, haven't seen it really in quite some time. I mean, they have flashes, perhaps like you're adding fuel to a fire, but see what I did there?
Did
That's how weak the quarantine has made my comedy. I'm going to blame the quarantine on that one. But yeah, taking San Francisco to the brink here. I mean, I think there's still obviously the questions of San Francisco, but regardless of whether or not there is a question of San Francisco's sort of authority in the league, taking them uh to 5 maps is certainly going to speak volumes to Dallas right now. Are they the real deal right now, Death, or is it a flash in the pan?
you can really look at them and see a difference. So I don't want to say it's a flash in the pan, but what I will say is there's been a lot of teams that we've seen do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Play very, very well for one time frame or
Yeah.
time
I
period.
mean, Houston
And then
specifically versus San Francisco last
yeah,
year.
last year, and we've seen it, this year at times, things like that. So it's a very interesting topic to look at, right? One thing that I thought was very notable with Dallas was there was no Harry Hook out there. It was back to closer,
Right.
who was to me an Overwatch League level main support player, and flips your support line from what I called last week one of the worst in the league, if not the worst in the
Yeah.
league, to maybe adequate, right? Like I didn't think it was really Crimzo falling apart that made them the worst. It was
Mm-hmm.
just generally they looked sloppy, they looked uncoordinated on the back end, and I do think closer helps clean that up a little bit. Probably a little bit better of an in-game caller, makes better decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Harry Hook comes off the bench after 14 months of
Right.
obscurity and not seeing any
Right.
play, and who knows how much scrim time, that's not going to be the best look. So I think there's a certain amount of this as Dallas seems to be getting a feel for the way the hero pools should work, and
Mm-hmm.
seem to be able to find a way to prepare maybe a little better than some other teams have, as they've been successful in it so far. And also, listen, we didn't see Decay play this well last year on the
Right.
LA Gladiators, so something's going on with their DPS line in particular. Doa was somebody we knew was a high potential or high
Mm-hmm.
upside player coming in. He seems to be working
Yep.
out. I'm curious to see, this week we're again spoiling a later conversation a little bit, but Tracer's going to be banned, so they're not going to be able to lean on that with Decay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how he plays when he doesn't have that to fall back on. Although he didn't really play it much this week. I'm struggling to remember what comps we're actually seeing play in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the Thursday Friday setup to open up the weekend for the Echo Showdown thing really threw me for a loop. So a little bit harder to remember what exactly they were on and what they were doing there. But yeah, I don't know. Like, listen, this isn't new from Dallas. They've
Right.
always got a stage. They've always got a time when they're playing well and it's working. And
Yep.
this seems to be it for them. So let's see, can they maintain it? Can they carry it through and build some momentum with it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought when I looked at this roster, it was a competitive team going into the season. It took them a little bit to get there, kind of just like Houston,
Yeah.
to be honest. And now they seem to be there. Fortunately for Dallas, they had fewer weeks off earlier in the year, so they didn't need to flounder on stage and figure it out. So maybe they've got a head start record wise. At least less losses to overcome. But that's just, that's opportunity in both directions. They've
Mm-hmm.
got to have it together when they do play those 2-game weeks, and string all their games together like Houston did earlier in the year. But yeah, I don't know. It's very tough to call with Dallas. We really don't know. But we know that when the tank line gets some heroes that agree with them, they can play
Mm-hmm.
pretty well. And and the back line's got closer in it, they look a lot better. And the DPS are what Dallas has never had. Playmakers that can
Right.
open things up, make individual plays, can carry team fights at times when it's
Mm-hmm.
needed. and just cover up some weaknesses. That's one thing a really good DPS line does, is they fix problems in your back. Oh, my flex support keeps getting killed. That's fine. I've got a guy that's killing 3 people every
Right.
fight. If we've got one that's dying, we can make up for that. And that's a tool that Dallas has never had. So we're finally getting to see that. And I think we're going to, at bare minimum, see them be a lot more competitive going forward, as long as those two in particular are able to keep playing at this level.
Yeah. So definitely an exciting time, potentially, maybe, to be a Dallas fan here. We're going to have to get Bob's, Blazing Bob's take on that. Although he's pretty much, he's always at least somewhat optimistic, or
he's
always
always
jolly.
Always burning blue. He's met a good chunk of the guys. Like, I mean, Bob is, I love making fun of him, but he is like just true blue, like a traditional sports fan would be for his team.
Yep.
It's absolutely perfect. It's the way everybody should be a fan of their team.
Yeah.
It's not, but yeah, it's just great checking in with him when they're surging, or it's great to kick them a little bit when they start to fall. Like, it just works out so perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout outs to Bob. We're recognizing this must be a fun little stretch for you.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like a lot of these teams, it's like, okay, you showed a performance. I mean, we're talking about Dallas right now, and they lost, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, that in and of itself, taking San Francisco to the brink here, is a placement match sort of performance.
Yeah.
So, hey,
and it was so much about the eye test too. Watching Dallas play, they looked like a serious competitive Overwatch team that had their stuff together. And yeah, there's a bunch of teams that don't. And before this weekend, Dallas was one of them. So yeah, it was definitely great to see.
Yeah. So, but just because you get placed in, plat or gold or diamond or whatever, doesn't mean that you're going to stay there. So they need to continue to
taking shots at Choi Hyo Bin being a gold player again.
I sure am. Literally gold confirmed. Okay, let's move on here. And oh, that's not the right sound.
Oh, let's break it.
There we go. I think I sure did accidentally open up another program, but I got it in time before it ruined my computer. Okay, let's first talk about the hero pool. As you mentioned before, Tracer banned this week. As we mentioned at the top of the episode, Echo banned this week. Put it into the game, immediately banned. We've also got Orisa banned as our tank, and Moira banned as the support. So, Death, with the Oracle eye and the analyst cap on, where are you putting the meta this week? What's jumping out to you?
Man, there's a lot of pressure getting on this segment because I feel like I've been pretty close to nailing it for a couple of weeks in a row now.
Hey, you got to keep it up.
Yeah, so these bans, when I look at them, I don't see anything to the institution of hero pools. And while there's been some very minor tweaks and balance changes since then, and if anybody from Blizzard is listening, I thought we were picking up the pace on those. Why is Mei still the best DPS hero in the game? Just change some stuff. Anyways,
it might have something to do with the fact that they're sitting on their toilets just like we are during the day and not at work. I don't know.
They released a new hero. I have a feeling they could put some.
Yeah,
I tweak some values.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate, even though I overwhelmingly agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, we can go on a little aside about it, but basically, there was part of it, right? Hero pools was going to give us diversity, and then they were going to do some fast meta targeted balance changes here. And we're getting the hero pools, and I think they're great. They're giving us a good impact, other than Echo's banned, right? Echo's not an Overwatch league, so I don't know why you're banning it here yet. Like, obviously they're together, and I get that. We kind of open ourselves up to that when we combined them. Nothing is all positives. There's negatives to everything.
Right.
We talked about how we liked it generally. This is kind of a downside to it, tying them together. Now there's basically only one DPS ban. But I also just hate this ban because it just got put in the game. It's new, it's exciting, it's driving people to play it again.
Yeah.
And you're
bringing
banning
people back to the game, making it exciting to watch. Like, new comps potentially arising.
Two of her counters just got unbanned from last week, right? So she felt oppressive last week. She's gonna feel less oppressive with McCree and Whitaker back in, I promise you. But anyways, I digress. We'll let Omnic Lab and some of the other shows discuss the in-game
To say
comp
maybe
balances.
a bonehead Blizzard move there, but we'll move on from it.
Yeah, just silly, basically,
Yeah.
right? Like and that's the benefit of hero pools is that when they do something silly that we don't, it only lasts a week and then you're
Right.
over it. So
Yep. Yep.
we'll just mention it as part of a conversation topic and
Yes.
back off for now. But yeah, let's get some faster balance changes back and stop banning the new and exciting heroes. Thanks. All right. So this week's meta, though, nothing really from the overall meta from before pools is out. So I think we can really expect to see a lot of Reinhardt Diva tank lines. May, McCree, Reaper, maybe Hanzo dominating the DPS picks. I do think there's room for dive here as well. There's no Tracer. So we were seeing a lot of like Tracer Brig comps with dive, but rewind before hero pools and some teams, Houston and a couple other teams as well. We're seeing some traction with dive compositions, Sombra and Doomfist based, right? So Hackfist. I think there's a lot of room for that. And I think there might be some map pool dependent dive teams that pop up this weekend and play that. So that'll be something fun to keep an eye out for. But this is one of those weeks, kind of similar to last week, where if you like to see the metas that mature over time, we're kind of returning to one that's existed previously. So I think teams are going to be able to work off of some of their old knowledge and scrim work, maybe adapt it a little bit, tweak it here and there, but you can go back and watch footage of teams playing under very similar conditions. This is a week where maybe the level of play might tick up a little bit and the level of like diversity in team comps drops. It goes back to something we're a little more familiar with. But again, that's the beauty of hero pools to us. We get everything that way, right? We get to return to this meta and use some of that old stuff. And then sometimes we get weeks of fun, new, innovative things. So yeah, that's what I'm really looking for this week. Moira being out, I really hope it means more Anna, but I don't know for sure that it will. Probably in those Reinhardt Diva based compositions. I don't think Baptiste is super good outside of Bunker at the moment. I think you want the more consistent healing of Anna, also just the huge nade plays, sleeps, and Overwatch League needs that back. I don't really understand why it left the metagame as much as it has, but I definitely want to get back to seeing more of that. So hopefully we do. Yeah,
I mean, I do like the returning to sort of previous metas, or like close to it, right? Might not be exactly, and that's even cool. Like we're actually seeing stuff like get built upon every week, and I think different teams are going to be at different levels, and I mean, we've talked about this a lot, so don't need to go too deep into it, but just being able to see the teams take what they already know and iterate on it, and like they've had time to think about it, they've played it in different circumstances, they've seen what works and what doesn't work, and like this hero pools and the fact that they change every week, and the fact that there's like they need to, like, the timelines are restricted, actually kind of makes it more interesting to me as a viewer and someone who's analyzing it, in that you get to like see how these teams react to the same thing differently, right? They get to some teams are just going to be better equipped, and we've talked sort of our thesis on this season has been like coaching is going to be such a big factor for the teams this season. So obviously with all the things that are going on, maybe that's shifted. At least I don't think it's changed. I think maybe it's shifted a bit, but very excited to see it go back. And I mean, I'd also be excited if Echo was in, but that's not going to happen.
Well, Echo wouldn't be in Overwatch League anyways.
Exactly.
Right? I think we're still 2 weeks away from her even being possibly brought into Overwatch League.
And if they ban her, then
I'm
gonna be mad.
Yeah, that would be kind of Monka-esque, but hopefully that's not the case, and right. I don't think they want that to be the case. I don't know. I'm surprised they did it this time, so who knows? I really do struggle to see much logic behind banning that hero this particular.
Because I got nothing.
Banned.
Banned. Okay, let's move on, and we will talk about our matches. No Thursday matches this week, just the Saturday, Sunday. So we're going to start off on Saturday with Seoul Dynasty versus the Hangzhou Spark. Now, while we did mention that we have seen teams that come back from breaks really not perform super well, we saw Seoul come back from a break already this season, and they performed pretty well, and Hangzhou has as we mentioned before, sort of solidified themselves in the bottom of this division, at least for the time being. So, yeah, give me Seoul here. Give me the 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, they're undefeated, and they've only played twice, which means they've only had like one active weekend. But like you said, that's coming from the longest break, right? Like that was their
Right.
week one. Came in, played really well. I really just, I've been in love with the way their roster's set up and built now. I think they're equipped to handle any metagame they need to. I mean, you've got Profit on DPS, so you literally are just like meta proof from that
Right.
stance, and the gesture on main tank, but Booston is seeing play on flex support. So I not only agree with the acquisitions they made, I agree with the way who they're starting and how they're using players so far. And maybe that changes. It is Seoul. There, if anybody's gonna shoot that in the foot, it's gonna be them. They're gonna be the ones to do it fast.
Yep.
But for right now, until we see that, I've got to assume they learned their lessons from last year and aren't going to repeat. Yeah, so until we see a sign of that, I'm going to assume they're going to continue to look really, really good, because I just think they're built almost probably the best of any of the teams, if I'm being honest.
So is that a 3-0 for?
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, 3-0 Seoul. Yep.
You may have said it. I can't
Always lose points if you don't say buy or sell.
It's true. So that's minus points. Okay. Next up is the Hangzhou Charge versus the Shanghai Dragons. Again, our power rankings for the Asia division are a little bit set right now. And this is a matchup we've already seen a bunch of times here. Give me Shanghai. Give me 3-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. I am a bit of a believer in Guangzhou. Like what they've got going. I think they're a team that will continue to improve as time goes on, and I'm going to give them 1 just because Happy isn't banned. There's hit scan heroes around, so we might get to see the man, and that makes me happy. So I have to think that my happiness is worth at least 1 map. But Shanghai's just been so consistent, so steady as she goes. They're 6-1 so far. Plus 14 map differential. Like they're just in a really, really good spot right now, and playing really solid. I don't know that we've seen them perform at a level that says I'm going to pick them to beat a Seoul or, one of the Philly or somebody like that was performing really well or at the top as well. But, we'll get that test later on this weekend. Right. So.
Sure. We sure will, I think. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we do. All right, next up is the returning NYXL versus the Chengdu Hunters. I don't think you really need to ask what my score is, but easiest 5-0 of my entire life. For NY, that is.
Yeah, I mean, Chengdu looked pretty good this weekend, though. And New York has this issue where sometimes they play Who Are You on May, and it doesn't look so good.
That is true.
I can't say I'm like locked and loaded that New York's winning this one, which is insane to even think about with just taking historical factors into account. But coming off of a break with everything, I think there's definitely a window here for Chengdu, who is performing pretty well. That said, I'm not picking it. I'm going to pick New York 3-1 here. But I've got my eye on this one. There's some definite flip potential going on here.
Speaking of flip potential, we've got two sort of powerhouses, maybe inconsistent powerhouses in general, coming up and battling it right here with the Atlanta Reign versus the Philadelphia Fusion. Death, let's hear your take.
Well, I think we just had this matchup not too long ago, right?
I believe you're correct, but was it 2 weeks ago? If memory serves me, which it almost certainly doesn't.
Yeah, our memory is pretty faulty by default, but let's look and see here. Philly versus no, we didn't. Okay, so I really thought we did. Yeah, no, we did. I'm sorry. Week 10, it was 3-2 Philly over Atlanta. Listen, this is as close to a coin flip as you can possibly get. I really don't feel confident that one team is going to come out on top here. I will be picking Philly 3-2 because it is Reinhardt based, which tells me Sato's not likely to be as big of a problem or
Right.
really a problem at all. He's not been an issue playing Reinhardt. He's been
Mhm.
very, very strong on that hero. With that being available to him, I'm going to lean very slightly in Philly's favor. Just been a little more consistent. Atlanta is going to do things sometimes like just play Baby Bay over a more talented DPS option like
Mhm.
Erster. And that just
Yeah.
makes me a little nervous. If they don't do it here, it's not a problem. If it's a product of who their opponent is, that's fine. But it like I said, it just makes me a little bit nervous, and that means I have got to pick Philly here, 3-2.
I mean, I like a lot of what you're saying, but also Philadelphia, Philadelphia. Okay, I'm going with the Atlanta Reign. I'll take the 3-2. I do think that this is a good. It is a very close match. I mean, if I'm an Atlanta fan, I really want to be seeing a lot more Erster than I am of Baby Bay, but I don't know. This last couple weeks, I mean, if Seoul can right the ship in terms of figuring their roster out and getting things, and if Florida can actually start putting the roster in that they already have in the right places, anyone can. So we're gonna flip here. We'll go tails for the Atlanta Reign. So flip. And that is a heads, which means the Philadelphia Fusion are going to win as told by the coin. All right.
Smart coin.
Last match of the week, of Saturday, we have San Francisco Shock versus the LA Valiant. Seth, who do you have?
I'm gonna go San Fran 3-1 here. I'm very torn about San Francisco and what they should be doing here because you can tell that it's not quite where it was before, and it's not goats, and that makes sense. It was so much of why they were as good as they were. They really figured that meta out and found themselves a home there. And now they've kind of got to do that on more of a weekly basis. And they're still obviously one of the most talented teams. They're still probably my number one team on my power rankings, just because they haven't been beat by somebody like directly that would make me want to change it, at least that I'm remembering. They obviously had the 0-2 week or whatever, but when you are 3-0 or 4-0 since then, I can dismiss that. So yeah, they're really tough. It's funny because the stats and the numbers on ANS are good enough that says they're probably right and he should be being played, but like the eyeball test to me when he's in there versus when he's not is significant. And that maybe that's me, and maybe I just need to spend more time in the replay viewer going over them and really figure out what's going on with San Francisco. But as you can tell, I've got this iffiness to it that I just can't say, oh, San Francisco's going to win 3-1 here, and it's against the Valiant. But yeah, the Valiant have been looking strong. I think Dreamer's come on and proven that he is a very, very good main tank player. At least doing well for them at the moment. And so I think they found their main tank, and I think that makes a big deal for them. There's potential here for it because the Valiant to me seem like a swagger, momentum dependent team. And if they just are hot that day and take a map, then they could just never look back and put San Francisco in the dust. But it's just nothing I'm predicting, right? We're still really figuring out what the Valiant are. Even if we're starting to have some questions about San Francisco, there's not enough openings and gaps there for me to start predicting this upset. So yeah, SF 3-1.
Even though LA Valiant, if I recall correctly, was one of the teams that beat San Francisco on that 0-2 week.
Got a better memory than me, I already believe.
I think so. I don't think that we can, like you said, predict it. LA is definitely inconsistent in that regard. They do. I think that they're a lot better than we thought that they were going to be coming in, and San Francisco is at the very least more shaky than we thought they were coming in.
It was the two LA teams that did it. Okay, so in week 8, the Valiant beat San Francisco 3-1, but in week 9, San Francisco beat the Valiant 3-1.
Right.
So these two teams have gone 1-1.
It's the rubber match.
It's the rubber match. It clearly demonstrates that either one of these teams can take it.
Yeah, for sure. That being said, I'm going with San Francisco. They have the historical margin by I would say a lot
easier to trust.
It's safer. If this is I wouldn't say a flip of the week, but this is a risky flip that you're probably going to get a lot of. I don't think a lot of people are taking this flip here. Probably for good reason, but I think you wouldn't be an absolute madman for flipping this week. Maybe you would, but I would respect it. Let's move on to Sunday. Chengdu Hunters versus the Hangzhou Spark. We saw this exact match last week. Hangzhou again. I'm putting them at the bottom of my Asia region power ranks right now, and in this case, I'm just gonna read right off the card on my power rankings. Give me Chengdu. I'll go 3-1 over Hangzhou. And Death is 4-0 on hitting the mute.
Super mute. Like, what is bumping it? I don't even understand. Hey,
Might be Discord. Who knows?
I might have done that one just to hit the vape real fast on accident. That's usually what it is.
Yeah.
Did this matchup happen this past weekend? Is what I was trying to figure out. I don't.
Oh no,
so.
It didn't. Wait,
no. Okay.
You just put.
Anyways,
you literally put in the notes same as last week.
Yeah, I was referencing something else. I was.
Oh, gotcha.
Trying to figure it out. But no, same as last week in the sense that I just feel like of those teams that were kind of circling, right, when there was like 3 or 4 teams and they were all playing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Last week I was talking about how Chengdu just felt like the most consistent of them.
Right.
And I still kind of think that, especially an 0-2 week for Hangzhou. Chengdu looked like the better team this past weekend. So I'm going to keep with the kind of recent trend and assume that keeps going. Yeah, I'll go 3-0 Chengdu here. Hangzhou seems like they're really trying to get it all figured out, and maybe the return to Reinhardt is what they need, but I don't know. I'm still completely thrown off by the fact that I want to bet on Chengdu over Hangzhou at the moment, but that's where my head is at.
Yeah, definitely a crazy thought. Next up is, I would say, certainly Asia region match of the week, but potentially even just match of the week in general. We've got
definitely mine.
Yeah, Shanghai Dragons. Well, I was wondering if you were thinking maybe Houston versus Dallas as a match of the week, but or Philly versus Atlanta too. This is certainly a contender. Shanghai Dragons versus the Seoul Dynasty. I would put an asterisk on what we pick here based on how does Seoul actually look in day one, because if they look like garbage, maybe change your pick. But that being said, if we're predicting like we always do, which is not or without the information of a match that hasn't occurred yet, I gotta favor Seoul here. I mean, the problem being that it's going to be super close, and Shanghai has been consistent, and they've actually been playing week in and week out.
Sure.
They, it's different. There's a huge difference between playing your matches and actually, seeing the fruits and bearing out what you have done in regards to work on hero pools versus just seeing it happen and doing scrims and watching other teams do it. There's a huge difference there. So, that being said, Seoul, I think just on paper and just in general is the stronger team overall. I'm going to go Seoul 3-1 here, but again, I don't think you're a madman for flipping this.
I can copy paste everything you just said. I do completely agree with it. Both teams have been consistent in what we've seen, playing at a really high. The difference here is that I think there's more playmaking ability, right? We're talking about Prophet versus somebody like Lip, who's been good, but not
Prophet
shown anywhere. I mean, Prophet is to me the best player of all time in the history of the Overwatch League. I don't think anybody comes super particularly close to taking that, that title from him. But it is just that's the difference maker to me, right? Both teams are really, really sound, really strong, playing at a high level. I don't expect there to be a lot of silly mistakes or anything like that to give one team a massive advantage. So I've just got to lean on the team that I think has the bigger playmakers, the ones that are more likely to stand on their head and just win a map or a fight or something in the moment. So yeah, that's Seoul to me. But everything about, I mean, there's 5 more games played for Shanghai here on the season. That's way more experience. That's way less rust. There's
Right.
a very, very big opening, and there's not a big gap between these teams to begin with.
Yep.
So, yeah, you can go this one either direction, but I'm with you. I've been too high on Seoul to stop and back down now.
Yep.
So, yeah, 3-1.
Yeah, show us a reason to not be high on Seoul, and I will consider it for sure. We also have Guangzhou Charge versus NYXL. You can copy paste exactly what I said for NY's previous match. Easiest
Every
5-0 of my
NY
life.
match ever. Yeah, actually.
I mean, yes, correct. That is correct.
You've always said it, whether you've also said other things that change
True.
it afterwards.
True.
Who knows? Yeah, like I keep saying it every time Guangzhou comes up, and I really like what they're doing. I think they're a team that's going to grow and get better, but it's New York we're talking about, and unless there's a rust factor or something that should become apparent after watching them play against Chengdu,
Right.
you know, I think you have to pick New York here, but Libero and the May, please.
Yeah, get Who Are You off the May, please.
I mean, I like Guangzhou more, so play who you want, but for the sake of my prediction.
Scum. Okay, second to last match we have on the weekend, Florida Mayhem versus the Boston Uprising. Boston is not living up to their namesake. They are downfalling rapidly, it seems, week over week, not getting any better. And are they still technically have an illegal roster, right? Like that's not not technically a legal roster, but of course we know the rule book rarely tends to apply to
and for
Boston.
what it's worth, they don't have to announce it. They could have signed somebody and not made it public yet, so we don't know for sure that it's illegal, where the league office would know, but it was at least at some point, and again, outside their control, something should have been done about it right away, but they there should be some time frame here, right? Like shouldn't be that hard to trial a bunch of people that aren't allowed to leave their houses and see who you want to join your team. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Maybe
but
I should check my email. Maybe my signing letters in the
call up.
Yeah.
From popcorn vendor to bench superstar. But yeah, it's going to be curious to see. I mean, there's obviously the legit challenges of like if we want to sign a European player, does it we're just paying them to be in Europe and not able to scrim and not have decent paying, like what's the point? So I get it, but at the end of the day, it's rules are rules. You got I feel like at some point you got to sign somebody, so we'll have to keep an eye out for who that is. How do you pick against Florida after they just got it so last weekend? And Boston is still Boston. I've said it for 2 weeks now. There's 19 teams I would pick to beat the Boston Uprising. They're that bad to me in the eyeball test. Even when they managed to sneak a map against Toronto, they completely fell apart right away and lost the next 3. So I'll go 3-0 here for Florida. It could go either direction because Florida's only had one good match all season, basically. But again, I think everybody's a step out of Boston right now.
Copy and paste for me. Last match of the week. The what do they call this match? The Texas Showdown or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact.
Maybe there's not a naming for it.
Yeah, I don't know. But the Battle for Texas, at least we can
Battle for Texas, Houston Outlaws versus the Dallas Fuel. Two teams that start sort of in the bottom half of a lot of people's rankings and have really been making good strides in the last couple of weeks.
Very similar trajectories for the teams of the year. The major difference between the two of them right now is games played. You 4-6 record for Houston, 2-4 for Dallas. That's I'm terrible at math, but that's a pretty similar win rate to me, at least when I look at it. I don't difference there. So yeah, I think we're in for a bit of a treat. The other matches, the Shanghai versus Seoul, your Atlanta versus Philly, that's where you're going to see like the best Overwatch possible, and this isn't likely to be that match. But both teams are playing much better and playing like competent, competitive Overwatch teams. And right now, there's always going to be that rivalry there, that smack talk that wants to exist between these two teams. I wish they played as often as the Battle for LA did, because
Right.
that one's getting spicy and heated over there, and
Mhm.
this one could be just as good. But maybe we'll see that a little bit, because when they're balancing and doing schedules based off ping, I'm pretty sure Dallas and Houston are pretty darn close to each other. You can probably
Probably the
get some
same
steady,
servers.
yeah, you can probably get some steady ping between those two teams. So maybe we get an uptick of that, and this is the first of many. Of all the matches that I look at this, and I then look at the hero pool and go, does this have any impact, though? This is the one that really stands out to me. Part of Dallas's success has been not really caring about what the meta is, not really caring about what other people are doing and what is perceived to be as good, and just saying, man, have you seen Decay pop off on Tracer? And we're just going to
Mhm.
send him loose and throw him out there. And now that's taken away from them.
Yep.
And I think that's going to force them into the Reinhardt Diva tank compositions, which suit their tank players pretty well. Doesn't have to be a bad thing for them. But I think that gives Houston kind of that extra tool, that thing that maybe Dallas can't do, which is go into the Hackfist dive composition and just flip the script on them. So that to me is the whole difference in how I'm predicting this. I'm going to go
Sure.
Houston 3-2, just because I think they're ridiculously closely matched right now.
Mhm.
I think I'd pick Dallas if Tracer wasn't banned and some like Doomfist was, or something that
Right.
like, you know what I mean, was kind of a Houston ace in the hole pick.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'll go 3-2 there. But this is as coin flippy gets to me.
Normally, I want
Normally,
normally I want to pick against the Houston Outlaws. However, when it's the Dallas Fuel, I can't bring myself to do it. I do think that this is definitely a preference pick here. The point you bring up about Decay not being able to pop off on Tracer obviously rings true a lot, and I think would be a certain wild card factor for Dallas potentially. But without that, I gotta lean towards the Outlaws as well. I'll go with the
Yeah.
3-2 to Houston.
To be clear, Decay's more than capable of popping off on a variety of heroes.
Sure.
We're very aware of that. But it just feels like his comfort pick was taken away from him. So if things get away from them a little
Right.
bit, they don't have that thing they can do to change it up, where Houston does. It's super, super close on this one. We both picked it, but man, I really like, we probably should just flip a coin anyways, just because that's how close it is.
That's not how the rules work.
It's
Jeff.
not.
We know
It's
that.
not. The coin is on strike.
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay. That is it for this episode. Those are the matches for the week. Deathblow, how excited are you for Echo to come? I mean, not this week, but in general.
In Overwatch League,
Yeah.
man, she is so much fun. It's really fun. Like, I was playing with some buddies of mine from around the area, and one of them is like the least competitive gamer on the planet. And so we were even like just in quick play or whatever, but we did like one comp game, and we go in, and it was Volskaya, and I go around in the back, right, and I get around behind them, and I've got my ultimate on Echo, and I copy their Ash. I click 2 heads right away, and people drop. I throw a Bob out. The Mercy goes to res. I click the Mercy's head. 3 people are dead. Bob kills 2 people, and I've killed 5 from behind them so fast that it was just crazy. And that's me, and like on my fresh 25 account that's in gold, and with people that are literally in their first ever competitive game in Overwatch. So we lost the fight. Spoiler alerts. But nonetheless, it just tells me that there's like so much cool, fun things that this hero can do. I love the way that she has counterplay built into her. Like, oh, we're really vulnerable to Graviton Surge, so we can't have the Echo copying our Zarya, so we're just gonna switch heroes. Like, so there's like this, your hero, she like changes your hero picks to keep ultimates away from her, and like she's just a very dynamic, fun hero, and she just looks and feels so fluid and so Overwatch to play. Like, she just one of the most Overwatch heroes that I think this game has released in a really, really long time. Probably since like Anna. To me, Anna felt very unique. Like, oh, she's a sniper but a healer, and that's so different. And like there's no headshots, and like there's just all these little weird tweaks to her that
Yeah.
made her feel very Overwatch based and very
Mhm.
unique. And Echo has that in spades. Throwing out the balance issues and worries
Yeah,
and
yeah.
questions, I don't care. That'll get figured out.
Yeah.
And I think new heroes should be released a little overtuned, to make sure they see play and to make sure they get highlighted and to really show what they can do and let people abuse them. And then once the best players in the world are abusing it, then you take some of
Right.
that away, maybe, you know. So I'm super pumped. I think she's going to really breathe some new life into these games. And maybe that's why we're not seeing crazy comp changes, right? Because
Right.
like maybe Echo's just really good against May, and,
Mhm.
and so May is going to be out of the metagame in 2 weeks. You know, I really don't know, but I think that's going to give us a really good opportunity for some dive compositions to come
Mhm.
back into Overwatch and just really shake things up and give us a lot of really fun,
Mhm.
cool esports clip worthy moments.
True.
That's something that it feels like we haven't gotten recently because there's been
True.
so much goat, so much reaper,
Yep.
so much May, and you need the dive heroes and
Yep.
you need the widow makers and the McCrees around to really get that. And I want that back with a regularity instead of
Mhm.
hero pools give us that for a week. I want that to be like where we go to when the hero pool doesn't take out things that are at the absolute
Right.
top level of play. You know, like this week's hero pool doesn't touch what is considered to be the best heroes, so it kind of leaves you without a hero pool.
Mhm.
And when that happens, I really want there to be like the better compositions, and I
Yep.
think something like Echo can really cause that. You know, what caused all the other changes to the game? It was all Brig came in and that
Yeah.
unveiled goats and that changed the style of the game. And so this is to me a really unique opportunity to bury a lot of problems people have had with the game that I
Yeah.
think are mostly cleared up and cleaned
Yeah.
up in a big way, but it just there wasn't that big defining moment, you
Right.
know, and there's still like maybe the current patch favors an unfun hero, so it doesn't feel like it's there,
Right.
even though I'm pretty sure it is. Something like Echo, I think, can give it the shot in the arm to make it just crash
Yeah.
through, and all of a sudden it's fair game and everybody's playing dive all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's what I'm hopeful for, and I think there's at least a certain amount of hope that Echo
Mhm.
brings with her in that front. So
Yeah. Very, very flavorful there for Echo, but going to be very exciting in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, she's not banned on release. Oh, that would be just a huge oversight. But we will certainly be talking about it when it happens. But thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. We are, of course, here on High Noon Podcast. You can find us everywhere: YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all of that good stuff. Twitch, High Noon Podcast everywhere. Twitter, at High Noon Podcast, patreon.com/High Noon Podcast as well. And again, thank you so much, Ace Trainer Leon, for the $10 patron. Really, really do appreciate that. But that's going to be it for Deathblow. I am the Blevins. And remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Banned. Okay, chat. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you guys next week.